Hello, and good night, I guess. Today I'm going to be reading My Side of the Mountain by Jean Craighead George. I got this book as a gift, so as you can see, it's got some wear and tear. I got it in 2016, it's almost 5 years ago, which is crazy to believe. But this is for relaxation. So I'm going to start off by reading chapter 1. And each video will be one chapter. And then they will be put into a playlist, so you can just cycle through them, or you can listen to however many chapters you want. And I like having the pages to read in case you like to follow along with the book, or you can simply just listen. Alright, I have my light here, and it cycles through the colors of the rainbow, so it's very relaxing and beautiful. You can focus on the colors. But if that seems to be a bother, I can always remove it, just let me know. Alright. Chapter 1, in which I hole up in a snowstorm. I am on my mountain, in a tree home that people have passed without ever knowing I'm there. The house is a hemlock tree 6 feet in diameter and must be as old as the mountain itself. I came upon it last summer and dug and burned it out until I made a snug cave in the tree that I now call home. My bed is on the right as you enter, and is made of ash slats and covered in deerskin. On the left is a small fireplace about knee-high. It is of clay and stones. It has a chimney that leads the smoke out through a knot hole. I've chipped out 3 other knot holes to let some fresh air in. The air coming in is bitter cold. It must be below 0 outside. And yet I can sit here inside my tree and write with my bare hands. The fire is small too. It doesn't take much fire to warm this tree room. It is the 4th of December, I think. It may be the 5th. I'm not sure, because I have not recently counted the notches on the aspen pole, and that is my calendar. I have been just too busy gathering nuts and berries, smoking venison, and fish and small game to keep up with the exact date. The lamp I'm writing by is deer fat poured into a turtle shell with a strip of my old city trousers for a wick. It snowed all yesterday and today. I have not been outside since the storm began. I am bored for the first time since I ran away from home 18 months ago to live on the land. I am well and healthy, the food is good, sometimes I eat turtle soup, and I know how to make acorn pancakes. I keep my supplies in the wall of the tree in wooden pockets that I chop myself. Every time I look at those pockets during the last 2 days, I felt just like a squirrel, which reminds me, I didn't see a squirrel one whole day before the storm began. I guess they are holed up and eating their stored nuts too. I wonder if the Baron, that's the wild weasel who lives behind the big boulder to the north of my tree, is also denned up. Well, anyways, I think the storm is dying down, because the tree is not crying so much. When the wind really blows, the whole tree moans right down to the roots, which is where I am. Tomorrow, I hope the Baron and I can tunnel out into sunlight. I wonder if I should dig the snow, but that would mean I'd have to put it somewhere, and the only place to put it is my nice snug tree. Maybe I can pack it with my hands as I go. I've always dug into the snow from the top, never up from under. The Baron must dig up from under the snow. I wonder where he put what he digs. I guess I'll know in the morning. When I wrote that last winter, I was scared and thought maybe I'd never get out of my tree. I had been scared for 2 days, ever since the blizzard first hit the Catskill Mountains. When I came up to the sunlight, which I did simply by poking my head into the soft snow and standing up, I laughed at my dark fears. Everything was white, clean, shining, and beautiful. The sky was blue, blue, blue. The hemlock grove was laced with snow, and the meadow was smooth and white. The gorge was sparkling with ice. It was so beautiful and peaceful, and I laughed out loud. I guess I laughed because my first snowstorm was over and had not been so terrible at all. Then I shouted, I did it. My voice never got very far. It was hushed by the tons of snow. I looked for the signs from the Baron Weasel. His footprints were all over the boulder, also slides where he had played. He must have been up for hours enjoying the new snow. Inspired by his fun, I poked my head into my tree and whistled. Frightful, my trained falcon flew to my fist. We jumped and slid down the mountain, making big holes and trenches as we went. It was good to be whistling and carefree again, because I was sure scared by the coming of that storm. I had been working since May, learning how to make a fire with flint and steel, finding what plants I could eat, how to trap animals and catch fish, all this so that when the curtain of a blizzard struck the Catskills, I could crawl inside my tree and be comfortably warm and have plenty to eat. During the summer and fall, I had thought about the coming of winter. However, on that third day of December, when the sky blackened and the temperature dropped, and the first flakes swirled around me, I must admit I wanted to run back to New York. Even the first night that I spent out in the woods, when I couldn't get the fire started, was not as frightening as the snowstorm that gathered behind the gorge and mushroomed up over my mountain. I was smoking 3 trout. It was 9 o'clock in the morning. I was busy keeping the flames low so that it wouldn't leap up and burn the fish. As I worked, it occurred to me that it was awfully dark for that hour of the morning. Frightful was leashed to her tree stub. She seemed restless and pulled at her tethers. Then I realized that the forest was dead quiet. Even the woodpeckers that had been tapping around me all morning were silent. The squirrels were nowhere to be seen. The juncos and chickadees and nuthatches were gone. I looked to see what the Baron Weasel was doing, and he was not around. I looked up. From my tree, you can see the gorge beyond the meadow. White water pours between the black boulders and cascades into the valley deep below. The water that day was as dark as the rocks. Only the sound told me it was still falling. Above the darkness stood another darkness, the clouds of winter, black and fearsome. They looked as wild as the winds that were bringing them. I grew sick with fright. I knew I had enough food. I knew everything was going to be perfectly all right. But knowing that didn't help. I was scared. I stamped out the fire and pocketed the fish. I tried to whistle for Frightful, but couldn't purse my lips tight enough to get out anything but pff. So I grabbed her by the hide straps that were attached to her legs, and we dove through the deerskin door into my room in the tree. I put Frightful on my bedpost and curled up in a ball on the bed. I thought about New York and the noise and the lights and how a snowstorm always seemed very friendly there. I thought about our apartment too. At the moment, it seemed bright and lighted and warm. I had to keep saying to myself, there was 11 of us in it. Dad, Mother, 4 sisters, 4 brothers, and me. Not one of us liked it, except perhaps little Nina, who was a bit too young to know. Dad didn't like it even a little bit. He had been a sailor once, and when I was born, he gave up the sea and worked the docks in New York. Dad didn't like the land. He liked the sea, wet and big and endless. Sometimes he would tell me about great-grandfather Gribbly, who owned land in the Catskill Mountains and felled the trees, built a home, and plowed the land, only to discover he wanted to be a sailor. The farm failed, and great-grandfather Gribbly went to the sea. As I lay with my face buried in the sweet, greasy smell of deerskin, I could hear Dad's voice saying, "That land is still in the family's name. Somewhere in the Catskills is an old beach with the name Gribbly carved on it. It marks the northern boundary of the Gribbly Folly. The land is no place for a Gribbly." "The land is no place for a Gribbly," I said. "The land is no place for a Gribbly. And here I am, 300 feet from the beach with Gribbly carved on it." I fell asleep at that point, and when I awoke, I was hungry. I cracked some walnuts and got down the acorn flour that I had pounded with a bit of ash to remove the bite. Reached out the door for a little snow, stirred up some acorn pancakes. I cooked them on top of a tin can, and as I ate them, smothered them with blueberry jam. I knew that the land was just the place for a Gribbly. And that is the end of chapter 1 of My Side of the Mountain. Good night, guys.